Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for opening up the webinar a bit late. We had some technical issues, but we should now be on board here. Christina, could you? We have the first slide. I'll wait a couple of seconds. I see there's quite a few people just coming in, so we'll start in just a bit. Christina, you can put the first slide on for now, or the second. Thanks. Okay, so good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Johanna Siliakus. I work for the Emerging Areas Transport Sector Office at the Asian Development Bank, and you're all very much welcome to today's webinar, Investing in the Transformation to Electric Mobility in India. So if I can have the next slide, please. Thanks. This webinar is organized under the umbrella of the e-mobility support and investment platform for Asia and the Pacific. This is an initiative for sharing knowledge and building capacities with the objective to support the scale-up of financing of e-mobility initiatives. The platform is managed by ADB, the Asian Development Bank, and supported by GEF, the Global Environment Facility, and UNEP. During the past few years, we have arranged quite a number of webinars and online training as part of this platform, which many of you have attended previously, which is great. And the recordings of our past online events are available on the platform's website, which is available on the screen. I'll also put this website in the chat so you have easy access to it. You'll find information about upcoming events as well on that website, and you'll be able to sign up to our mailing list there as well. And just a note, future webinars will not be as frequent as they have been in the past. We used to organize every 2 weeks sessions, but instead we'll have a bit more focused sessions coming up, sharing information on core initiatives supported by the platform, as well as other interesting topics for our community. And next slide, please. And today's session focuses on discussing some of the key outcomes of the GEF Finance project, investing in the transformation to electric mobility in India. This project is implemented jointly by UNEP and ADB. And today we'll hear about both the ADB and UNEP-led components, including on topics covering just transition and women's e-bike pilots, e-freight, and battery end-of-life management. ADB's components have been implemented in partnership with Energy Efficiency Services Limited, and the UNEP components have been supported by WRI India, and both of them are represented as part of our panel today. And then on the agenda, if I can have the next slide very shortly. So we have 1 hour of webinar coming up. So first we'll have introductory remarks from ADB's side. Just as a note, so our director Sujata Gupta, who was originally planned to be providing the introductory remarks, had to cancel due to travel. So instead we'll have our colleague Samrat Ray from the India Resident Mission. And after that, we'll dive deeper into the project through 3 presentations from our panelists, who I'll introduce to you in just a bit. We'll conclude with a panel discussion to further discuss, and there should be some time available for questions from the audience as well at the end. And then next slide, please. Very shortly on house rules, to ensure a smooth session, we have muted your microphones. Questions can be posted to our panelists through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screens. We'll pick them up from there. And this webinar is recorded, and the recording will be available on the platform's website. And let me now introduce our first speaker to you. So if I can have the next slide, thank you. So Samrat Ray, he's Senior Project Officer for Energy at ADB's Resident Mission in India. He'll be providing us with the introductory remarks. Samrat has been closely involved in the implementation of this project, and he'll be able to provide us with a great introduction to today's topic with relevant context and background on the project. So over to you, Samrat. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Johanna, and Good afternoon, everyone. So I hope, Joanna, just to reconfirm that I am loud and clear.
Yes, we can hear you. We
Okay.
cannot see you though, but
Yeah,
we can
so
hear you.
I'm sorry because just I'm in a travel, so I just don't want to disturb
Okay,
the people
no
who
worries.
are on this webinar. Yeah, but thank you again, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. So from the ADB side, I lead this technical assistance, which is funded by two entities. What is the GEF, which is the Global Environment Facility, and also the Clean Technology Fund, CTF. So, and as Johanna mentioned, that we are implementing this through our partners, the Energy Efficiency Services Limited. Specifically for the e-mobility part, which is exclusively covered by GEF, that's a very large and elaborate scope covered under GEF 7, and it looks at multiple aspects. And I also know that UNEP is also one of the implementing partners along with ADB in this. So specifically coming to the ADB's components and the work we have been doing under this program of GEF 7, we are looking at scaling up e-mobility in cities in India, and for that there have been extensive studies across 4 to 5 cities in India, wherein we are looking at how charging infrastructure can be ramped up. We are also looking at how to get in more private sector participation into these kind of building these kind of infrastructure. What the government does in terms of easy permitting and all that. So that's an extensive study which we did across 5 to 6, I think it was 5 cities which we did across India. Some of the reports we are still finalizing, and in due course of time they will be made available. So that's an extensive work which was done. The other important aspect under this TA was also to look at gender mainstreaming. And that's where ESL and I'm happy to see that Madam Ritu Singh is also part of this webinar. And she has been extensively involved, and I think ESL will present on that, is to bring mobility. I mean, in the context of e-mobility, most of the time e-mobility looks at, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, you're targeting large cities, you're targeting large buses, public transportation and all that. But we often, forget that that mobility is also crucial when you're looking at, a bit of not the larger cities, but also the smaller cities in the context of India. And also women, who use, transport, for whom transport is an integral part for, earning livelihoods. So I think under this GEF, under this TA, we had the provision of supporting few pilots. So one of these pilots is basically to see how mobility can become part of women's livelihood and improving the livelihood of women. So that's an extensive pilot which was done. And it is just not about the pilot. I think what is also important is that we need to capture the results and outcomes of the pilot, and then try to see how they can be mainstreamed into policy. I mean, if you look at specifically in the context of India, the e-mobility incentives are largely, as I said, are driven by 4-wheelers, 2-wheelers, e-buses, and all that. This is a segment where the incentives are not there. And I think one of the things, if we really want to, bring in e-mobility into the landscape, is to, give out wider outreach. So that's the thing which was done under this pilot. And I think ESL will speak in detail about that. Further, I think we also looked at some of the other, non-commercial things which I think will still need support. I think one of them is using standalone RE systems for charging. I mean, if you generally see the landscape of EV charging, they are mostly grid connected. So I mean, in true sense, yes, you're charging you're driving an electric vehicle, but in the end, you're also the power which is charging the vehicle is actually coming from the grid. And if anyone understands the typical grid system, which operates in India and probably anywhere in the world, it's a mix of thermal and renewable. So it's you really can't say that it is purely renewable. But under this JEF7 program, we also did a pilot which specifically looks at how renewable energy, which is basically solar and battery systems, can be integrated to charge four-wheelers, and how you can do a business case out of that. So these are some of the things which we did. This program, I mean, while the ADB's parts may end probably in the next year or so, but I understand that UNEP is going to continue the good work, which is envisaged under this JEF7. And we look forward to continuously support this program. Yeah, thank you, everyone, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Samrat. Thanks so much for the introductory remarks and kind of a perspective and overview of the especially the ADB part of the project. Let me now introduce all of the presenters and panelists of this webinar in one go. And
Am I
I'll
audible?
hand over to each one of them.
Am I audible?
Yes, sorry, just one second, and I'll introduce all of the speakers first. So first we'll hear from Ritu Singh. Ritu works as Deputy General Manager at Energy Efficiency Services Limited, EESL, where she also functions as the organization's gender focal point, leading the efforts on gender mainstreaming. So EESL has been involved in implementing the ADB components of this project. And before handing over to Ritu, I'll also introduce Manoj Kumar. If I can have the next slide, please. Manoj Kumar Muthumanikam. He's responsible for UNEP's portfolio of JEF-funded climate change mitigation projects in the Asia-Pacific region. We've had some issues with having Manoj connect to Zoom. Zoom has not been collaborating with us today, but we hope to have Manoj on board on time for his presentation. And following Manoj's presentation, if I can have the next slide, please. We'll hear from Chaitanya Kanuri. She's Associate Director of Electric Mobility at WRI India, working on various e-mobility research and project initiatives from policies to private sector engagement. And Chaitanya will be providing us with more details on the UNEP components, the implementation of which WRI India is supporting. And finally, moderating the panel discussion at the end, we have Bert Fabian. So if I can have the next slide, please. Thanks. He's a Senior Transport Specialist at ADB, supporting initiatives on knowledge management, capacity building, and project pipeline development, including this e-mobility platform. So without further ado, let's start with the presentation. So let me hand over to Ms. Ritu. Ritu, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. And I think it's an opportunity for us to present our project that we did with the help of the funding that we received from through JEF7. I would just request Johanna or Christina to share the presentation, please. So moving straight away to the project that we did, because I think Samrat has already introduced that what are the projects under component 3, which was covered in India through JEF7. We at EESL, with our sister concern subsidiary unit, which is Convergence Energy Services Limited, we worked on micromobility solution, and the program was titled as SUS3. This is Sustainable Transport for Rural Entrepreneurs through Electric Bicycle. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Because this has already been spoken by Samrat and Johanna, I think I'll move straight to my slide. That will be on my micromobility pilot that we demonstrated. Yes, next slide, please. Christina. Yes. So this is an overview that how this pilot was initiated. But before designing the pilot program, we had a field survey to identify that which section of society would benefit best from this program, and what are the other challenges that are being faced by this section of society. So the observation from the field survey was incorporated in the pilot designing, and that includes that generally, if you see in the rural areas and in tier 2, tier 3 cities, the vehicles are generally owned by, or the ownership remains with the male in the household. And female, although they are working as a professional, be it like teacher or as a healthcare workers or as a small entrepreneurs, but none of them, very small percentage, they own their own transport or their own travel access they have. They generally are dependent on their male partners or on their family members or on the infrequent available public transport, which not only adds to their travel expenses, but also creates a lot of discomfort, and it also reduces their productivity. So once we started speaking with the target beneficiaries whom we thought that they are going to benefit the most, so we found that this electric cycle as a product, as a technology, was not known in these smaller cities. And when we talked about, so they had anxiety about the technical component that is mainly with the batteries, that how if the battery gets like obsolete, then what is the solution for it? And even with the range of the cycle, then also with the comfort in riding the cycle. So we tried to address all these in our program, and we spoke to various ministries, and finally we signed an MOU with Ministry of Rural Development. And after that, they selected the 4 states where the pilot was to be demonstrated, which is Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Madhya Pradesh, where the separate agreement with their state authorities was signed. So the pilot included identification of beneficiaries for which a checklist criteria was developed, which included that the woman should be involved in some kind of business activities. And generally these women, if you're aware about Indian system with the Ministry of Rural Development, they are named as self-help group, and they're all together 10 crores of SHG women who are registered under Ministry of Rural Development. So we ensured that these women have some business activities. They know how to ride electric bicycle. They have their travel requirement. The age limit, we kept it as 40 years, and they have their ID proof. And when the checklist, based on the checklist criteria, when the women were identified, we observed that 90% of the women were covered who belong to vulnerable caste, that is your OBC or scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, and the income was limited to less than 20,000.
Christina, could you please continue sharing?
With respect to battery anxiety, we ensured that we provide them with the 3 years free replacement of the battery, and also with the free service for the first year for the electric cycle, for the maintenance of the cycle. Along with it, along with deployment of electric bicycle, we also ensured that there is a technical partner whom we engaged with by arranging additional fund, who provided the technical support and also training to our identified energy champions. So in all the 4 states, out of 1,800 cycle, we had 50 women were selected as energy champions based on their leadership quality. And the comprehensive training included not only on the technical know-how about electric cycle, but also about the digital payment system, on the marketing skill, on the road safety guideline, so that it becomes more like a handy kind of product for these women. Along with it, we also engaged a third party, a research organization, for conducting this impact assessment study, which included a baseline and midline and endline survey, and a local NGO partner to overview or to monitor the whole program and to provide continuous hand-holding to our beneficiaries. In all the 4 states, if we see, the product remained similar. Only in Bihar, we also embedded it with GPS technology. And we also, the energy champions who were imparted with this technical knowledge, with the training, so they were further incentivized with the demand aggregation. So for each demand that they aggregated from their own community, from their own official network, they were provided an incentive. So looking at the whole, the criteria of selection, we ensured that these women, these beneficiaries, are provided with the continuous support so that they remain the primary user of this electric bicycle. And also with respect to design, I hope I'm audible. It's showing internet connection is unstable.
Ritu, you're audible. Thank you. We can hear you.
Yeah. So we ensured that they get a continuous support through this, through our knowledge partner, through our survey team, and also through our manufacturers who deployed one technician for every 200 bicycle in each area. And they ensured that along with this free service camp, which is organized periodically, and 3 services are free of cost, where women come with their cycle and they get their maintenance service done. They also remain there and they provide continuous prompt services if any technical defect arises. It was all to ensure that the objective of the whole program was to see that how this cycle can become a product which can improve their livelihood, which can reduce their travel expenditure. It becomes a vehicle for the family where the woman becomes the primary user, and also seeing that how it is going to benefit the environment, which was it was specifically aligned with our sustainable development goals. Next slide, please. Christina. Yes. So here I am presenting the benefits, the outcomes of Bihar, because this project is ongoing in another 3 states, that is your Andhra, Kerala, and Madhya Pradesh. The end term survey is still it is to be done, completed. But for this webinar, we have come up with the assessment that we have done with the end survey that we ended up just a few weeks back, where we realized that at the individual level, if you see 37% reported that they have an average income increase by 1100 rupees. This is an INR, Indian currency. The share of women earning between 2,000 to 5,000 per month rose from 43% to 52% after distribution of cycle. Their travel cost reduced by, this was reported by 53% of the women beneficiaries, and that was on an average, if we see, it is around 1100 INR. 22% beneficiaries reported that they incurred zero travel cost in the first few months. And this program has just been completed between 3 to 6 months, and where we are seeing that lot of tangible benefit, monetary benefits with respect to income, increase in income, with respect to reduction in travel expenditure is being observed. If you see the time saving, 90% of the respondents, they reported that they have they are saving their time to an extent of 1 hour, which they are able to utilize with their family, or they have their own leisure time, and it is adding to their productive activities. It has increased their livelihood opportunities. 25% reported that they have expanded their existing business, or they have entered into new ventures, which has been provided by the government. This has also improved their physical comfort and safety, because we have tried to make the product handy by continuous support, either through our local NGO partner or with the technical technician, which is deployed for the regular services, or with our survey teams, which has helped them to understand the product. And also when they are using it continuously, they understand it has become comfortable for them. So on a scale of 5.75% rated it as 4. The most of the women, the beneficiaries, we are seeing that they're using this electric bicycle for multiple purposes. Apart from using it professionally for their work, they're also utilizing to dropping their children to school, or their children are going to the market, or doing some bank work, which is replacing the costlier of the physically demanding modes like auto rickshaws and walking. 57% reported that they're using these electric bicycles regularly between 3 to 7 days, which indicates the consistent integration into daily mobility routines. Next slide, please. With respect to, if we see the household benefit, so 81% have reported that their travel expenditure has reduced. 30% saw that there has been increase in their income to an extent of 1,500 INR per month. There is a productive use of, and the saving that they are having by using this electric bicycle, they are utilizing it for their household needs and children's educations. Here, I would just like to indicate one point, that if anything which goes to women, if you get the monetary saving, it is more committed, or it is more utilized for the family welfare, which we generally don't see if the same item, if it is being given to a male partner. This is a observation which has been observed from the field, and it has also been highlighted by the beneficiaries, that the saving that they do, they ensure, and it is directed towards their family welfare. Because these cycles are not only being used by the prime user, that is our beneficiaries, it is also being used by their spouses or by their children for their coaching needs or for their errand requirements. So it has become more like a family vehicle, and that is why when we talked about design, we ensured that the design remains unisex, where you have a comfortable seat, and there is a free replacement of battery for 3 years, and also ensuring that there is a regular maintenance services provided for these cycles, so that is a local ecosystem being built around the product. At the community level, if we see, so there was initially a resistance from the society, from the household regarding this cycle, because they found this as a poor man's vehicle, because it resonated with your normal cycle. But once they started utilizing it, and when they understood the tangible monetary benefit of using this product, then it became more like an accepted by everybody. And those who have not been able to avail this product as in the pilot stage, now they are raising a demand, and that is why we have also got the requirement from the state that now they want to move to the second stage of this pilot.
Ritu, sorry, could you start wrapping up, because we are running out of time for your presentation, so we have enough time for the panel discussion as well. Thanks.
Right. So similarly, there was the ease of riding and for the maintenance because of the local ecosystem that we built. Next slide, please. So with respect to the national mission of the government, if we see, so we already have a mission to penetrate 30% of EV penetration has to happen by 2030, where 80% penetration is for two-wheelers and three-wheelers, where we see that it has a huge opportunity if electric bicycles also get included in the government's mission. It also promotes electric vehicle in the rural areas, especially in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, by supporting the model shift from motorcycle and from three-wheeler based on the transport to electric bicycles. It also drives the livelihood missions of the Ministry of Rural Development. They are promoting the livelihood activities, and if they provide with this access to mobility, I think this is going to further enhance their program, because none of the government programs mobility access. They only provide incentive for running their business or for starting their new businesses. There is also a scope for the manufacturers if it gets expanded or linked with the production linked incentive. For the state policies, EV policies, like in Delhi, we have seen that they have promoted electric bicycle for the first 1,000 bicycle purchase. 25% rebate was given on MRP of electric bicycle, that is the normal commute electric bicycle, and 33% for cargo electric bicycle. Next slide, please. It also leads to gender and social inclusiveness. As I mentioned, that generally this transport facility remains with male counterparts, and this has given an orientation and an exposure that women can also use, can access, and if this kind of solution is provided to them as a independent, they also become independent, and their productivity improves, and it aligns with the national gender empowerment goals. If we see the whole program in a holistic manner, so next slide, please. So with this participation in the electric mobility sector, if you see, so the beneficiaries, there were 1,800 beneficiaries who were selected as per to the checklist criteria. They are trained energy champions who not only remain as a champions for electric bicycle, but now they understand the electric component. And whenever the local ecosystem is developed around these electric bicycles, they can be readily be engaged either in the manufacturing of the auto components, or even for the assembling, or even they can operate their own maintenance services. The comprehensive training capacity has enabled them, but although it is at a smaller scale, but now we are approaching the national NSDC, which is National Skill Development Commission, so that this kind of training program can be embedded at the government level. Demand aggregation, maybe we are doing at a smaller scale through this pilot, but this has given us a vision that if such programs are operated at a national level, and one unit is being identified who can do the demand aggregation either from the education organization, institution, and from the public sector units, and from the government ministries, or like the SAG women or ASHA health workers or Anganwadi teachers. I think this is going to incentivize and also bring the product prices down, and this can also be motivating for the manufacturers. So the local ecosystem becomes an enabler, and that is why the continuous support handholding was required, and this should remain even when we move out of this pilot and becomes a national program. It has a social impact because now this product, because earlier there was no awareness, people were not aware, but since once they are becoming aware, so there is more and more demand being created. But yes, that is in pockets. It has to be aggravated at one level, at a national level, so that it becomes easier to develop as a national program. So if you see the overall impact, it has an economic empowerment. It has led to the human capital development by providing the training, the technical training, and the continuous support. And at the women level, we also see that it has enhanced their leadership, because now they are able to replicate, convince other women, other people, and they become an integral part of the decision making at the household level and also at the community level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ritu. Thank you. Let's move,
Christina?
in the interest of time, let's move forward with Manoj. Are you able to connect? Yes, I think we have Manoj here. Perfect.
Yes.
So Manoj, over to you, please.
Just trying to start the video, and for some reason it's not allowing me to open the video. Is it? Oh, yeah, I guess it is fine now. Are you able to hear me and see me as well?
Yes, thank you, Manoj.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you so much to ADB for providing us an opportunity to share our experience with the India Electric Mobility Project. And first of all, I would like to recognize the enterprising presentation made by Rituji on the ADB part of the same project. It's a very interesting project in a way that ADB and UNEP has joined hands for creating a system level impact on the Indian EV ecosystem, in which ADB is doing certain aspects of that, and then UNEP is also providing some impact through the partnership with Niti Aayog and WRI. The UNEP part of the project started a bit late than the ADB part of that, and we took it as an advantage in analyzing the ecosystem changes which has happened since the ADB start. By virtue of this, we are currently working on three interesting elements of the Indian ecosystem. One is on the freight transport, because we feel like The activities around other vehicle segments have progressed dynamically and progressed well. And in that sense, we are focusing on both LCVs and EMSTVs. And the other key interesting aspect where we are currently working is on the battery aspects. The project is studying both the struggle life application as well as recycling aspects of that. And the third interesting aspect is on the just transition, which focuses on both the MSME aspects as well as on the gender, including other ECD considerations. In all these components, we are not only coming up with studies and assessments, of course, but going beyond that, we also want to establish some framework and also demonstrate the business case of, in case if it is ELCV, we want to demonstrate what exactly could be done through the actual implementation of these activities. So my colleague Chaitanya from WRI will be presenting a bit more details on the various components and what exactly is happening under the project. I'm here for further questions and any clarifications which the participants have. Thank you so much, and over to you, Chaitanya.
Thank you so much, Manoj. Yes, Chaitanya, over to you.
All right. Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thanks to Manoj for providing the context of this particular project. WRI India is very happy to be working closely with NITI Aayog and the United Nations Environment Program and their guidance on this project. We are the executing arm of the components 1, 2, and 4, which are under the UNEP direction of the JEF project. So just very briefly to set the context, I wanted to give a bit of an overview of the electric mobility ecosystem. Not in great detail, but on the demand side, this is what e-mobility looks like in India, right? You have a high numbers of electric two-wheelers and three-wheelers in the country, fewer but still significant numbers of buses and cars, and a nascent and beginning ecosystem for electric freight. A decent but still low proliferation of public charging stations, which is growing day by day. And if you can see the EV penetration rates, they are looking encouraging with three-wheelers at about 28%, two-wheelers at 6.5%, and others yet to grow. Here you see that freight still remains at 0.1% as of 2025. And overall, EV penetration in India has grown rapidly in the past few years and is at 8.3% in 2025 so far. This still needs to be accelerated, certainly, because we are looking at a target of 30% by 2030, a national target. On the supply side, again, we have about a 200 billion opportunity of the EV market by 2030, quite a few two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and EV manufacturers that are across the country, and many startups as well that have come into being to leverage this opportunity, both from manufacturing and service provision side. So in this sort of context, the project aims to accelerate this shift to decarbonized transport systems and catalyze access to finance for a large-scale adoption of EVs. So with this, I'll go into all three components briefly in terms of what the problem statement has been in terms of an analysis of the ecosystem and what the project aims to do, and some early successes from the project. The project started just last year. We have another 2 to 3 years to go, and we are hoping to build on these early successes that we will be presenting towards over the remaining life of the project. So coming to component 1, which is looking at developing financing and business models for accelerating the adoption of zero-emission trucks in India. Why trucks, you ask? So we know that road freight is about 71% of the overall freight movement, which is integral for economic growth. Now, trucks form only less than 5% of the total vehicle volumes in India, but account for about 34% of the transport sector emissions, which is set to grow to 60% by 2050. And as we have seen in the EV adoption rates, trucks are still at a very low rate of adoption, which is why this project, as it began in the last year, analyzed the ecosystem and realized that a focus on freight segments can actually deliver disproportionate impacts over the course of the project. So, however, while freight adoption is integral, there are several barriers that still remain, both in terms of policy, market and financing, as well as the infrastructure. And these are what the project aims to address. So the project outputs, the main outputs of this project are to develop financing and business models and facilitate their pilot for electric light commercial vehicles, as well as for medium and heavy duty commercial vehicles, and then develop charging infrastructure across the ecosystem. Light commercial and medium and heavy duty commercial vehicles are two beasts. Both have different challenges, both have different business models and completely different sets of stakeholders. However, the catalyzation of both segments is integral for freight electrification, and therefore they are both being treated separately. As early achievements, as we've mentioned, we have signed an MOU with the Transport Department of Maharashtra. The purpose of this MOU is to focus on freight and battery activities in Maharashtra, which is one of the states in India, one of the major states in India. And having this sort of state level buy-in is critical to ensure we are able to have implementation and translation of our work into policy. On the other hand, we have also launched a pilot demonstration for light commercial vehicles in the textile market of one of the cities of India. Again, exploring different use cases and having pathways based on the very specific context of the different use cases is becoming a key pivot point for achieving business viability and financial feasibility for different business models, especially in the freight sector, which is why we thought it would make sense to look at this textile market and look at the pilot demonstration there. There have been encouraging results already, which we hope to pursue and build on. Apart from that, we've been doing a fair amount of stakeholder engagement, both on the financing and business models for electric freight, as well as for the scaling of charging infrastructure across the same. Financing is a barrier today for freight because you do need long-term contracts and significant contracts for financiers to come on board for financing this electric freight vehicles. At the same time, most of the freight ecosystem is made up of very small fragmented players that own 1 to 5 trucks each max. And so they do not have the capital to actually pull this kind of financing and affordable financing. So through this project, in terms of next steps, a few of the things we do plan to do in the freight component is ensure that we do have robust business models, which look at both the total cost of ownership as well as the cash flows, which become very critical for business owners to transform their fleets to electric. And we also plan to look at aggregating demand so that these smaller players can actually benefit from strong, more robust contracts. Coming to component 2, which is looking at building a sustainable battery ecosystem in India. Again, a little bit of context, right? So EV adoption is expected to grow rapidly. Lithium-ion battery demand is growing from 10 or 11 gigawatt hours per year in 2022 to 160 gigawatt hours per year by 2030. And our lithium-ion battery imports have surged, as a result of which the government has also taken note, and is promoting battery manufacturing in India. And EVs are going to be one of the driving factors behind this demand for lithium-ion batteries. However, given that India does not have critical minerals and is still building up its battery ecosystem, there is a very important case to be made for reuse and recycling. Reuse to reduce the primary demand for batteries, and recycling to reduce the demand for critical minerals that go into battery manufacturing. And with this context, however, there are certain challenges facing battery circularity in India. When it comes to second life or reuse applications, it's a very nascent, underdeveloped market with a lack of standards, which means it cannot be mainstreamed and does not have enough trust from consumers in the ecosystem. Often also, it tends to be uncompetitive with new batteries because new battery rates are falling rapidly. On battery data management, data exchange between various stakeholders in the battery ecosystem can make battery reuse and recycling more viable. Today's a standard framework that says what is the remaining useful life of a battery, what is the state of health of a battery. There are no standard methods to calculate these data points, which means that there is again a lack of trust in the ecosystem. Battery recycling, today there is fragmented collection and lack of adequate infrastructure for proper processing and end material recovery within India. So again, this project aims to tackle these aspects. There are three main areas we're looking to work on: creating a market assessment and policy advisory framework for battery second life applications, while also working with the relevant government and industry stakeholders to ensure it is implemented. A battery data management framework for India. How do you build out such a framework? This is akin to a battery passport or battery Aadhaar, which are different terms used for this mechanism, and how to strengthen battery recycling systems at the subnational level. So we were fortunate to host a very large-scale summit in May this year, which helped highlight some of these critical challenges and brought national government interest. So this is from the Ministry of Science and Technology, and the minister himself was there. And again, this builds the support for initiatives like the batteries passport or battery Aadhaar. So there was a prototype of the battery Aadhaar also that was demonstrated at this summit, and we are now building on this to understand how to enshrine this framework both from a policy as well as a digital infrastructure perspective. Again, various stakeholder engagements to further these messages. Coming to the final component, component 4, which is looking at a just transition, as Manoj said. So this is the changing automotive value chain, right? All the pieces, there's a various numbers of pieces: EV components and manufacturers, EV OEMs and manufacturers, testing services, charging infrastructure manufacturers, as well as the changes in power infrastructure, all of which require a whole new set of skills. And over time, if we are saying 30% of the vehicles sold in India will be EVs by 2030, there will also be a gradual decline in the number of jobs being generated in the traditional automotive, and more jobs will be generated in EV. So today it is an opportunity and it needs to be leveraged before it becomes a risk in the future. With this context in mind, we are also aware that informal workers, women workers, and micro, small, and medium enterprises are often disadvantaged in being able to transition in the same way that a large OEM or a big tier 1 enterprise can transition by diversifying and investing in EV technology. However, many of these sort of marginalized or at-risk groups are not able to make those investments, do often lack have information asymmetry and lack the awareness and information to make the transition or upskill themselves or lack the resources to upskill themselves. So this project is looking at ensuring that how do we prepare and build up the capacities of the MSMEs, workers, and of women as a generally underrepresented group in the transport sector to leverage and take advantage of this transition. So the key areas we're working on in this project are one is on how do you make electric mobility more gender responsive, both from the workforce perspective as well as from the consumer perspective. The second is how do you facilitate upskilling for women and informal workers? And third is how do you enable a supportive ecosystem of services, be it financing services, common facility centers for MSMEs to upgrade themselves and transition to electric mobility. So again, one of the key ways that we have found is very effective is to work with industry associations and government partners to further some of our objectives in this pursuit. We have signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with ASDC, which is the Automotive Skill Development Council, and is responsible for developing a sectoral skill programs for the automotive sector. We've also started undertaking an in-depth assessment on what are some of the key skills required and qualification pathways required to create a workforce ready for battery manufacturing in India, as well as highlighting some of the challenges as well as potential solutions for creating a gender-inclusive e-mobility workforce. Thank you. That was the overall scope of what has been done so far. And looking ahead, we really hope to build on these initial impacts and achieve the objectives that under each of these components of battery circularity, freight electrification, as well as enabling a just transition to electric mobility.
Thank you so much, Chaitanya. Thanks, Manoj. A lot happening in this project on both sides, on ADB and UNEP. Let me hand over to Bert for a short panel discussion that we'll have time for in the end. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Johanna. I'm not sure if we can still have a panel, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank our speakers, definitely our colleagues from ADB and UNEP, WRI and EESL. It's the Jeff supported project in India. We know that it covers a lot of topics. We know it has been delayed, but it's very good to hear that also you adapted to certain things, because at the same time that the project was approved and to be implemented, many things on e-mobility has transpired. I will state some of the questions that were posed by the participants, but I would just like to highlight a few of the things that you mentioned, which is very important because it's also, I think, what key in the issues on electric mobility in India, like the ADB component, looking at charging, looking at rural transport, women, gender, and then for the UNEP side, also looking at the most pollutive sectors of transport, which is commercial vehicles, urban freight, or freight in general, and also looking at the skills transition. Some of these questions, Ritu, I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but there are questions related to the sustainability of the project, but also in terms of how these electric bicycles were distributed. Were these through low interest loans or were these free? Do you know of any other initiatives that can scale up these projects? These are some of the questions that were posed for you. Perhaps you can see it and I'll give you the opportunity to reply briefly. We also have question to Chaitanya in terms of the battery circularity and whether you have explored design of logistic systems for battery recycling. I think you can see some of these questions and I will give you the opportunity to answer. Let me start with Ritu or Samrat.
So, shall I respond to the questions?
Correct, Ritu. If you can, if you cannot, it's okay. We can provide the responses later to the participants.
For the electric bicycle, because it is directly post to electric. So what I have seen as like the finance part, for a pilot is what it was partly, the cost was borne by the beneficiaries and the balance amount was financed through Jeff. Now for the scaling up, I think the states where we have worked, now they are working and they are building on the mechanism where they can provide a part funding either through the blended financing mechanism, which can include interest subvention through their financial institutions, and also with some kind of guarantee which can be provided by the government, by the state government. And this I would be specifically mentioning about Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Bihar, where we have done this pilot. For the second question, how is availability of maintenance facilities ensured after the first year? So as I mentioned that already these women are being trained. So whenever they are going for the service camps, the women are been asked to do the services themselves so that they understand the electronic components of the cycle, and the product becomes very handy for them. And these technicians are going to be deployed for another 3 years till the project gets over. And the idea is that these women have to be well equipped with the understanding about the electronic part of the cycle, how it has to be maintained. And at the same time, they're having the learning also with the experience when they are using the cycle. So the chances are, the opportunities are given to these women that they can run their own service, maintenance service for these cycles. And they can also become a part of the hub when it comes to for the manufacturing or assembling of these electric cycles.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ritu. Chaitanya and Manoj, I see Chaitanya, you have already responded to the question that was directly posed to you, but perhaps if you can elaborate on your response, you can also say something more about the key lessons that you have learned in your implementation of this project in India, Manoj and Chaitanya, that will be relevant for scaling up e-mobility in the region or for other countries in the region. Let me just say that. I hand over to you, Manoj.
Thanks, but let me take the first part of the question, then I will request Chaitanya to add on it. Now, one key aspect which we have learned, or one key lesson which we have learned, is the need for flexibility and doing the midterm course correction, right? As I initially mentioned in my earlier intervention, because the UNEP part of the project was starting a bit late, we clearly saw that the Indian ecosystem has progressed a lot than the original design, project design. That's the reason we had to take the midterm review of the project, and based on the midterm review and in consultation with a lot of stakeholders, including Government of India, we came with a revised decision, which is close to the project's core objective, but with revised activities to complement what ADB is doing and what the original objective of the project. So that is the key lesson which I would say that could be shared across the projects in the region. The other aspect is, again, this India project is quite comprehensive in a sense that multiple efforts are being taken to improve the ecosystem. It's not only one specific to one particular aspect. The ADB part of the project is working on certain aspects, as well as the UNEP part is trying to cover different aspects, be it trucks, as you mentioned, but as well as on the battery part, which is quite crucial, as well as on the just transition aspects. So it's a very comprehensive effort what we are taking under the India project. This could be one of the lessons as well. Over to you,
Thank you,
Chaitanya.
Manoj. Chaitanya, over to you.
Thank you. In very brief response to the question that was posed in the chat, when it comes to collection systems for used batteries, it is going to be a very strong interplay of how do we integrate informal collection into formal systems. Informal systems work excellently at efficiency of collection, but they are not as efficient at extracting the maximum value from the system. And given that lithium-ion batteries are often high voltage and have a lot of safety aspects that need to be kept in mind when dismantling them, there is a need to ensure that the efficiency of informal collection is not lost, but at the same time, there is a sort of integration in the processing phase into formal systems of recycling. So far, a lot of the work has been done at a national level in terms of setting the regulations, but how that gets manifested in terms of collection hubs or some sort of drop-off points even for informal collectors to also benefit from the system so that they're not just shut out also suddenly needs to be explored a lot more. They need to be upskilled, and you need the infrastructure and systems to also enable that they are integrated better. We're still working on this, and we will be probably having learnings in this in the next 1-2 years. Overall, in terms of global applicability, whenever we have been speaking with global colleagues, we find that there is a lot of lessons that many of the nations in Africa are looking at when it comes to India, because India presents a more cost-effective means of the EV transition, e-mobility transition, which North America, Europe, and even China cannot be providing, and that can't be replicated in the African nations. So many of them do look to the Indian example, and especially be it in e-buses and electric trucks, as well as in battery circularity. There is a lot of interest in how that is being managed in India and how lessons from that can be transmitted. So we look forward to really taking some of these lessons and disseminating them globally, because we believe that there is a lot of scope and merit in having them be scaled up at a global level. Thank you.
Excellent, Chaitanya. I know it's not fair that we are trying to cover this whole issue of Indian electric mobility experience in 1 hour, but there will be more opportunities. But again, I would just like to thank our speakers, colleagues from ADB, UNEP, WRI, and ESL. We will have more of this kind of information sharing as we are running this platform together with UNEP, who's implementing the Global Electric Mobility Program. And ADB, we are starting to receive a lot more requests on electric mobility from the private sector side on various topics, charging, different modes of transportation, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, trains even. And I think it's important to share how certain projects are being developed or what are the lessons learned, and we will continue to do this. So, but having said this, I hand over back to Johanna, and thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, all of our participants, first of all, and a very special thanks to our speakers. As Berit mentioned, there's a lot clearly to be shared, and we'll look into more opportunities on that in the future. Join or look at our website. I posted in the chat. It's emobilityplatform.asia. You'll find more information about upcoming events. We're planning another webinar to happen in November. More information about that will be coming per email and on that website. So thanks all of you, and look forward to seeing you in our future events. Thank you so much.